Let me tell you about the day I realized I was paying more money to be broke than my rich friends were paying to be comfortable. I was standing in a Walmart at 11 o'clock at night, staring at a $29 microwave that I absolutely knew, would break in 8 months. I'd owned this exact model before, twice actually, but I had $32 in my checking account and my old microwave had just died and I worked night shifts and needed to heat up food, and so I bought it anyway, again. My friend Sarah, meanwhile, had bought a $200 Panasonic microwave 4 years earlier, and it was still running perfectly. Over the same time frame that I'd spent probably $150 on garbage microwaves that kept dying, she spent $200 once and never thought about it again. She actually paid less than me, and that's when it hit me. Being poor is expensive. Not like metaphorically expensive, not expensive in some vague emotional sense. I mean literally, mathematically, brutally more expensive. Every single day, in ways that most people never see, poverty costs extra. And if you've ever felt this, if you've ever bought the cheap shoes that fell apart, if you've ever paid a late fee because you were waiting for payday, if you've ever overdrafted your account by $3 and got hit with a $35 fee, if you've ever felt like you're running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up no matter how hard you work, I need you to know something right now. You're not crazy. You're not bad with money. You're not irresponsible. You are living inside an economic system that charges poor people a premium for the crime of not having enough money up front. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how that system works, why it exists, and what you can actually do about it. This whole thing has a name, by the way. It's called the Boots Theory of Socioeconomic Unfairness, and it comes from a fantasy novel of all places. Terry Pratchett wrote about a character named Sam Vimes who realized that a rich man can afford $50 boots that last 10 years, while a poor man can only afford $10 boots that last a single season. Over 10 years, the rich man spends $50 on boots. The poor man spends $100 replacing cheap boots over and over again. The poor man actually spends more money, but his feet are still wet. And here's the thing that makes this so insidious. It's not just boots, it's everything. Let me walk you through what I call the poverty tax, the hidden premium that poor people pay just to survive in America. Let's start with the thing that probably hurts the most: overdraft fees. You know this one already if you've lived it. You've got $12 in your checking account. You forgot about that $8 Netflix subscription that auto-renews today. Your account goes negative $4. The bank charges you $35 for that. You're now negative $39. And you don't get paid until Friday, which is 4 days away. On Wednesday, your phone bill auto-pays for $60. That bounces. Another $35 fee. You're now negative $134 before you even get your paycheck, which means when that check hits, you're starting from $134 in the hole. You just paid $70 in fees because you were short $12. Meanwhile, someone with a comfortable bank balance never pays a single overdraft fee in their entire life. The Federal Reserve found that 9% of bank customers pay 84% of all overdraft fees. Translation: poor people are subsidizing free checking accounts for rich people, but it gets worse. Let's talk about banking itself. If you don't have enough money to maintain a minimum balance, a lot of banks charge you a monthly maintenance fee. You literally get charged money for not having enough money. So people in poverty often can't even afford to have a bank account, which means they use check cashing services that take 3 to 5% of every paycheck. If you make $25,000 a year and you're paying 4% to cash your checks, that's $1,000 a year just to access your own money. $1,000 that someone with a bank account pays zero for. Then there's credit. If you're poor, you probably don't have good credit, maybe because you missed a payment during a rough patch, maybe because you're young and haven't built credit yet, maybe because you had medical debt. Whatever the reason, bad credit or no credit means you pay more for everything. Car loans, if you can get one, might be at 14% interest instead of 4%. That's an extra $4,000 on a $20,000 car. Your car insurance is higher because insurance companies can use credit scores in most states. You pay more for car insurance because you're poor, which makes it harder to stop being poor. Rent is another brutal one. If you can't afford the first month, last month, and security deposit up front, you end up in worse neighborhoods with worse landlords who charge more relative to the quality because they know you don't have options. And you're renting forever because you can't save for a down payment on a house, which means you're paying someone else's mortgage instead of building your own equity. Over 30 years, a renter might pay $400,000 and own nothing. A homeowner pays $400,000 and owns a house worth $500,000. But you needed that $30,000 down payment at age 25, which you didn't have, so you're locked out forever. Let's talk about food. This one makes me furious. If you live in a poor neighborhood, you probably don't have a nice grocery store nearby. You've got a dollar store and a corner store and maybe a bodega. The actual grocery stores are in the suburbs where people have cars, so you're buying smaller quantities at higher per-unit prices from convenience stores. A gallon of milk at a grocery store costs $3.50. That same gallon at a corner store is $5.50. You're paying 60% more for milk because you don't have a car to drive to the cheaper store. And even if you could get to the grocery store, you can't buy in bulk to save money because you don't have the upfront cash, and you don't have storage space in your tiny apartment, and you might not even have a working freezer. Here's one that people don't think about: laundry. If you don't have a washer and dryer in your apartment, you're going to a laundromat and spending maybe $8 a week. That's $416 a year. Someone who owns their appliances pays maybe $50 a year in water and electricity. They paid $700 for the machines 5 years ago, and they're done. You're paying $400 every single year forever. Healthcare, my God, healthcare. If you're poor, you probably don't have good health insurance, which means you don't go to the doctor for small things, which means small things become big things, which means you end up in the emergency room with a $3,000 bill for something that would have cost $80 to prevent. You can't afford the name brand medication, so you skip doses to make it last longer, which makes you sicker, which costs more in the long run. Transportation is the same trap. You can't afford a reliable car, so you buy a $2,000 beater that breaks down constantly. You're spending $600 a year on repairs, which is way more than a car payment would be on a decent used car, but you can't get approved for the loan because your credit is bad because you're poor. So you keep dumping money into the beater, or you're taking public transportation, which costs time, which is money you could be earning, and limits which jobs you can even apply for. And then there's time itself. This is the one that breaks my heart. Poor people pay with time because they can't pay with money. You're taking 2 buses to get to work instead of driving. That's an extra hour and a half each way. That's 3 hours a day you could be sleeping or studying or spending with your kids or working a side hustle. You're spending Saturday at the laundromat instead of owing laundry in 10 minutes at home. You're on hold with the utility company for 45 minutes trying to negotiate a payment plan instead of just auto-paying the bill. You're physically going to pay your rent with a money order because you don't have a checking account instead of paying online in 30 seconds. Death by 1,000 time cuts. And every single one of these things makes it harder to stop being poor because you're so exhausted from the extra effort of being poor that you don't have energy left to take a class or learn a skill or apply for better jobs. I did the math once. Just rough numbers for someone making $25,000 a year in a city. Overdraft fees, maybe $300 a year. Check cashing fees, $1,000 a year. Higher car insurance because of credit, maybe $500 extra a year. Laundromat, $400 a year. Higher rent per square foot in a worse neighborhood, maybe $2,000 a year. Buying worse quality products that break faster, harder to quantify, but let's say another $1,000 a year. Just those items alone, that's over $5,000 a year. 20% of gross income just evaporating because of poverty itself. So why does this happen? Why is the system designed this way? Let's be clear about something. This is not an accident. This is not some unfortunate side effect. This is the system working exactly as it was designed to work. Banks make enormous profits from overdraft fees. In 2019, before some of the reforms, banks made $11 billion a year from overdraft fees alone. $11 billion extracted primarily from the poorest customers. Think about that business model. You make money when your customer doesn't have money. You profit from their crisis. It's perverse. And the banks know exactly what they're doing. They process transactions, largest to smallest, specifically to maximize overdraft fees. You've got $100 in your account and 5 transactions pending. 4 small ones for $10 each, and 1 big one for $80. If they process smallest to largest, you'd overdraft once on the last transaction, one $35 fee. But they process the $80 one first, then the four small ones, and you overdraft four times. Four $35 fees, $140 in fees instead of $35. That's not a bug, that's the feature. Check cashing places, payday lenders, rent-to-own furniture stores, title loan companies. All of these businesses exist specifically to extract wealth from people who don't have enough money to access normal financial services. It's predatory by design. The credit system is the same thing. Credit scores were supposed to measure risk, but they've become a tool for price discrimination. They've become a way to legally charge poor people more for everything. And here's the evil genius of it. The system makes you feel like it's your fault. You overdrafted because you didn't keep track of your balance. You have bad credit because you made bad decisions. You're renting because you didn't save. The entire apparatus is designed to make systemic extraction look like personal failure. But let's zoom out even further because it's not just financial services. The whole economy has shifted in ways that make poverty more expensive than it used to be. 50 years ago, products were designed to last. Oz companies made money on volume and reputation. Now products are designed to break because companies make money on replacement cycles. Planned obsolescence isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a business model. Your grandparents bought a toaster in 1965 that still works today. You've bought 4 toasters in the last 8 years. That's not because you're careless. That's because Black & Decker realized they make more money if your toaster breaks every 2 years. The housing market has completely decoupled from wages. In 1970, the median home cost about 2.8 times the median household income. Today, it's about 6 to 8 times depending on where you live. That's not because houses got twice as good. That's because we turned housing into an investment vehicle instead of a place to live. Investors and landlords buy up properties, which drives up prices, which makes it harder for regular people to buy, which means more people have to rent, which means landlords can charge more, which makes it even harder to buy. It's a doom loop, and wages haven't kept up with anything. The federal minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour, which is about $15,000 a year full-time. The living wage in most American cities is at least double that. We've created an economy where working full-time doesn't pay enough to live, and then we blame poor people for not working hard enough. It's gaslighting at a societal level. Even the poverty programs designed to help people have cliffs built into them that trap people. If you're getting food stamps and Medicaid, and you get a small raise that pushes you slightly over the income limit, you can lose $4,000 in benefits to gain $2,000 in income. You're literally punished for earning more, so people turn down raises or work fewer hours because the math doesn't work. And then we call them lazy for not wanting to earn more. The system creates the trap and then blames you for being in it. There's also a psychological component here that we need to talk about. Poverty is cognitively expensive. There's research from Princeton showing that the stress of poverty reduces cognitive function by about 13 IQ points. That's the equivalent of losing a full night's sleep every day forever. When you're constantly worried about money, constantly doing mental math about which bill you can pay late, constantly stressed about whether the car will start, your brain doesn't have bandwidth left for long-term planning or optimal decision-making. It's not that poor people make worse decisions because they're less intelligent. It's that the constant cognitive load of poverty makes everyone make worse decisions, and then those worse decisions are used as evidence that poor people deserve to be poor. It's a circle of blame that ignores the cause. Scarcity creates scarcity. And let's talk about the social isolation of poverty, because that's a hidden cost too. You can't afford to go out with friends, so you lose social connections, which means you lose access to information about jobs and opportunities. Your network is your net worth, as they say. But building a network costs money. Coffee meetings, lunches, going to events, all of that costs money that you don't have. So you're cut off from the informal economy of favors and information that middle-class people swim in without even noticing. Someone's cousin who works in HR and can get your resume looked at. Someone's friend who's selling a reliable used car below market price. Someone who knows about an apartment before it's listed. Poor people don't have access to that hidden market. Everything has to go through formal channels, which are more expensive and less effective. So what do you actually do about this? I'm not going to lie to you and say there's some easy individual hack that solves systemic problems. There isn't. You can't budget your way out of not having enough money. You can't side hustle your way out of an economy that doesn't pay living wages. But there are some things that can help, and more importantly, there are ways to stop the bleeding. First, if you're paying overdraft fees regularly, you need to break that cycle immediately. Switch to a bank or credit union that offers overdraft protection linked to a savings account, even if you only keep $20 in savings. Or switch to an online bank like Chime or Ally that doesn't charge overdraft fees at all. Yes, it's a pain to switch banks. Do it anyway. Those fees are killing you. Second, if you're using check cashing services, getting a basic bank account will save you $1,000 a year. Many credit unions and online banks have no minimum balance requirements and no monthly fees. If you've been rejected by banks before because of check systems, look specifically for second chance banking programs. They exist. Third, address the credit score issue because it's costing you thousands. If you have no credit, get a secured credit card where you put down a $200 deposit and that becomes your credit limit. Use it for one small regular purchase like gas. Pay it off in full every month, and in a year you'll have a decent credit score. If you have bad credit, dispute any errors on your report, which is free to do, and consider a credit builder loan from a credit union. Fourth, the quality versus price calculation is real, but you have to be strategic. You can't afford to buy expensive everything, so focus on the items that matter most. Shoes, if you're on your feet all day. A mattress, because sleep is health. A winter coat if you live somewhere cold. Buy those things used if you have to, but buy quality. Buy the cheap version of things that don't matter or don't get used much. Fifth, if you're trapped in a rent cycle, look into first-time homebuyer programs that exist in most states. Some require as little as 3% down, and some even offer down payment assistance. The monthly payment on a modest mortgage is often less than rent for the same place. Yes, there are other costs like maintenance, but you're building equity instead of lighting money on fire. Sixth, automate whatever you can to reduce the cognitive load. Set up auto pay for your essential bills on the day after you get paid so you're not doing mental math all month. Use an app like Mint or YNAB to track spending so you're not holding it all in your head. The goal is to reduce the number of financial decisions you have to make manually because every decision costs mental energy. Seventh, find your people. This isn't some vague inspirational advice. I mean literally find other people who understand what you're going through. Online communities, local mutual aid groups, friends who get it. The isolation of poverty is real. Breaking it gives you access to information and support that matter. Someone in your situation has already figured out the workaround you're looking for. But here's the most important thing I want you to hear. The real exit strategy isn't individual, it's collective. These systems exist because they're profitable for someone and because we've collectively accepted them as normal. Overdraft fees exist because we allow banks to charge them. Poverty wages exist because we don't demand better. The housing crisis exists because we treat homes as investment vehicles instead of human rights. The only way this actually changes is if we vote for people who will regulate predatory financial practices, if we support unions and minimum wage increases, if we demand housing policy that prioritizes people over investors, if we build mutual aid networks in our communities, if we stop internalizing the shame that the system wants us to feel. None of this is your personal moral failing. You are navigating an obstacle course that was designed to be unwinnable. And the fact that you're still here, still trying, still getting up every day, and doing the impossible math of surviving on not enough, that doesn't make you a failure. That makes you a goddamn hero. I know it doesn't feel that way when you're staring at your bank account at midnight wondering which bill you can pay late without getting shut off. I know it feels like drowning. But I need you to know that you're not drowning because you forgot how to swim. You're drowning because someone's holding your head underwater and calling it a pool party. Seeing the system for what it is doesn't make it hurt less, but it does mean you can saint. Blaming yourself, and that matters, because the shame is part of the trap. The shame keeps you isolated. The shame keeps you quiet. The shame makes you think you're the only one struggling when the truth is that 63% of Americans can't afford a $500 emergency. You're not alone in this. You're not uniquely broken. You're living in a broken system, and the bravest thing you can do is stop pretending it's fine. Talk about it. Share your numbers with people you trust. Organize with your neighbors. Vote like your survival depends on it because it does. Demand better. The boots theory isn't just an observation about poverty, it's a call to action. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once enough of us see it, we can change it. Not overnight, not easily, but we can change it. Until then, you do what you have to do to survive. You make the hard choices. You buy the cheap microwave, again, because that's what you can afford today. But you don't carry the shame of it. You don't let the system convince you that your poverty is your fault. You survived another month in an economy designed to grind you down, and that's worth something. That's worth everything. Thanks for watching. If this video helped you feel less alone, share it with someone else who needs to hear it. And remember, you're not failing at capitalism. Capitalism is failing you. Take care of yourself out there.